Hei alle sammen, og velkommen tilbake igjen til Atle uten filter. Det har tatt litt tid, men nå er vi på plass igjen. Og i dag så tenkte jeg at vi skulle snakke litt om noe vi lurer på alle sammen. Verdens beste hest gjennom tidene. Hvem er det? Jo, Muscle Hill. Hva er det som gjør at hans avkom er så ekstremt gode? Hva er forskjellen på å trene en hest etter Muscle Hill? Hvordan så han ut eksteriørmessig? Hvordan var å kjøre inn? Alle disse tingene som vi ikke har fått noe svar på før, for vi vet jo bare rett og slett ikke. Og hvis man ser tilbake inn alle de løpene han har gått, så hadde det vært kjempegøy å kunne snakket med han som egentlig plukket han ut som baby. Hva så han? Hva gjorde han? Og hva gjorde den hesten til verdens beste hest? Interessant, eller hør? Jeg er litt interessert i å finne ut av det. For det er mange i Norge nå som har hester etter Muscle Hill. Han er både som far, han er som morfar, han er som farfar. Han er ekstremt. Og vi vet jo historien bak der, at det var Sir Nordin, flere ledd bak, som egentlig gjorde at Muscle Hill kom til verden. Og så har vi en ting til, så jeg bare gir dere et lite tips på. Egentlig så var det planer om å kastrere, ta Muscle Hill ut av åringsseksjonen, og så kastrere. Tenk for en katastrofe for industrien, hvis det hadde skjedd. Så små marginer er det. Og en ting til, som er litt spesielt, det er at jeg har faktisk kjørt Muscle Hill. Ikke i løp, men jeg har trent den. Jeg kjørte meg som 3-åring. Men ok, for å få svar på en del av disse spørsmålene, så håper jeg dere følger med. Jeg skal nå ta og ringe til Greg Peck, som trente hesten, følte han opp hele tiden, og vet alt om historien til han. Så setter jeg godt tilbake, så skal jeg ringe til han, og så kan han fortelle. Jeg vet han er en av verdens beste speakere. Han er flink å prate, flink å tale, så jeg må sikkert stoppe han underveis. I så tilfelle så han er i godt selskap med meg. Jeg skal prøve å holde kjeft, og så kan han prate litt om. Jeg skal bare stille en del spørsmål opp front, og så kan han ta det på veien, for at min engelsk er ikke den beste. Men jeg skal prøve å geleide dere gjennom dette. Så sitt ned, lytt på dette, og så skal vi se. Nå skal jeg prøve å ringe til Greg Peck. Men husk på en ting, jeg har bare noen telefoner. Dette er jo hjemmelaget, alt sammen. Skal vi se. Ok, let's go. Boof.
Good morning, Atle.
Good morning, Greg. How are you today?
Well, it's cold, but that's fine. And I enjoyed watching the Prix d'Amérique yesterday. So
what do you think?
Things are good. How about with you in Norway? What's it like?
Yes, in Norway it's cold, but you know, the climate has changed so much, so we don't have this cold winter we have before. And
yes.
So, yes, we are happy. We train the horses every day and go to the racetrack and try to do the best we can. But, you know, I'm most interesting, you know, I'm working very hard with the American trainers and, you know, the American industry. I like to hear. But yes. I have this...
Well, you're well known here, so you should.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. You know, I will introduce you a little bit because I have this YouTube channel and we're always talking about Muscle Hill and blah, blah, blah. But I think I will talk a little bit. Can you tell us, for example, I will give you some question now, and after that because I know you're one of the world's best speakers, so I'll let you talk. But there we are interesting in Norway are what you saw in the Muscle Hill. The first, tell us when you look at him first time, when you starting to train him, what early you see there was a special horse, and just like these things. So I will stop you on the way, but because we have so many horses in Norway after Muscle Hill is father and mother, you know, every this stuff. But tell us a little bit about the horse, you and him. I will try to shut up, okay?
You don't have to. It's a conversation. I like talking to you. I always have, so don't worry about that. When you get guys like you and I together, something good will come out of this, for sure. I'll tell you how it started, really. I saw his pedigree, and I knew Diesel Dawn was good, not great. So I thought, well, the mare could produce a great one. And I also knew at the time that the pedigree appeared to be what, in those days, there were better muscles Yankee ones on the breeding side, but I didn't feel that way because the sister to Yankee Blondie, sorry, her brother was a TV Yankee with the world record, but didn't sustain. And then he was inbred back to Yankee Duchess, which produced stallions like Muscles Yankee, like Valley Victory, like who else is in there? Winsong's Legacy, Yankee Glide. So I knew that that there was stallion potential there. But I saw his video, and the video to me was so technically correct. Now the concern I had, you could see that he toed out like some trotters do, but what he did is he toed out on all fours. If you looked at it this way, on all 4 feet, he stood at what you'd call 5 minutes to 1, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I had this theory that's why he trotted in between his shins and could go so fast. When I saw him at the sale, I went there to buy him, but he had a roach back. Now, it wasn't a really defined one. I've seen some of them that they really have a bump almost like a camel. He didn't have that, and he kind of filled in over time. So he was bought on a Monday, went back to White Birch on Tuesday, and your fellow Norwegian, Sylvia Hovda, she round-penned him and line drove him, and then went to the track with him on Thursday. And when I came back from the sale on Friday, she said, this one is really something. He's all trot. So I went to the track with him, and literally he had what the thoroughbreds call cruising speed. He could go around track twice as fast as what the ones who had started up in Lexington that another trainer had. They were out there in sets, and I turned him around the right way the track the first day, and he would literally lap on them. So you knew there was something there, but you've had great horses as well. You could never speculate that because things can happen along the way that they aren't what you think they are. So you couldn't say at that point, he's going to be the greatest, possibly. I think he's the greatest 3-year-old trotter ever. We can't say age. He didn't race at age and be the sire influence that he was or is now all over the world, as you say. It's everywhere. And I could even see with the French stallion, Take Like Love You, had the top 2-year-old here last year. But if you look at that horse, he looks like a Muscle Hill. That's where Muscle Hill dominated the mare. I don't think that it's Love You, put it that way. And it's everywhere. So, I said it all winter. I can remember with Jerry Silva, who was a part owner, would ask me, I'd say, well, I can't imagine one training better. And that's it. It just went from there. But what I didn't tell, he had a lot of quirks that I didn't say at the time because I wanted the emphasis to be on him. He had several quirks. It was not as easy as I made it out to be at the time.
Interesting. But you remember when you started to baby race him?
Yeah.
You remember when...
I baby raced him. I'll tell you what happened. First time I baby raced him, I had Ronnie Pierce, who's a good friend and really did most of my driving. So I put Ronnie down to baby race him at Gateway Farm. But Ronnie didn't come because he had to go Chester, Paris, Philadelphia, had qualifiers that day, and he had several in for Jimmy Tactor, so he went there. So I went with him, got away second, finished second, and past the wire, I said to Brian Sears, well, this is the one you'd want for the Peter Houghton. And it went from there. That's how Brian Sears ended up driving him, really.
Yes, and Brian, he was an amazing driver. He had the hands like gold.
Well, I say this too about him. What I really respect is he never put him in a compromising position in a race. And let's face it, every champion before and after him was either beat or they had to overcome some kind of an impossible spot in a race to win or to lose. Brian never took it for granted and put him in a perfect spot each and every time. And I take pride in that. We all did that, whether it was Sylvia or me or Rico, the different ones who worked for her, and even Molly Norway, who was from Norway as well, that she traveled with Sylvia across the country with that horse because I wanted to make sure that everything was safe. And so I put a lot into it. I mean, his success was no accident. We certainly planned everything and left very little up to chance.
But I have also a question. What you think you must train him hard, or can you just, he was so talented but...
Well, he trained easily. But he had quirks. He would crank his tail a lot, so he had a stiff crouper, and if you get over too far by his gate, but by the the in and out gates where they come onto the track, he would run off. Or he would, when he'd be warming up, he'd look to gallop.
Oh.
And to the point you'd start, and I never said that, and then let's say if I wasn't there, Rico would call me, Rico Robinson, who trains here in America now, a gentleman from Mississippi. He'd say, "You better get over here, Greg. He's a funny horse. He won't trot." And I could seem to have a rapport with him and get him to trot. And then by the time you'd pass him over to Brian Sears, and Brian and I never talked about him. That's the way the relationship worked best. I'd literally pass him the lines and walk away. And he wouldn't do anything. Once it was showtime, he was like an actor, I guess, when he stepped onto the stage, or a hockey player. I know a lot of hockey players that don't practice well, but when the referee blows the whistle, he's ready to go.
Yes. So when you go from took him to the gate, he changed totally, like oh my God, like a tiger. But before he was relaxed,
and he had And I noticed that when I baby raced him at Gateway, I don't know why, Atle, but I didn't ever have him on the starting gate. Like normally you do, you school them at the training centers on the gates, even though today at a lot of the yearling farms, they think that they're now better on the starting gate because they have the walkers where they follow a gate. He had done none of that, but when I stepped him in behind the gate, like you just feel in his mouth, it was just like pushing buttons. But, I will say this, he was beat by one of Burke's horses who had raced a couple of times, and he didn't feel, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, if I had have pulled him, he would have trotted right by him. I'm not going to say that because it seems in the baby races, you're better off not pulling them. Let them follow along in hand and then go from there. That's kind of how it happened. And then when Brian baby raced him the next time, he went wire to wire. And that was another funny thing. When he hit the front, I said to myself, I should have told him. Because if you put him on the lead training, he might look to pull up. And I knew that. So I'd say to my crew, remind me to never do that again. But once he got in the race, he didn't do it. And I remember when he brushed to the lead in the Peter Houghton limbs, the same thing. I thought, I hope he doesn't now. And he did. Never did again. It was like he knew it was showtime.
Yeah. But Brian Sears, so drive him these races. He was what can I say? He was nice to him, if I understand you right.
Yes.
And you always warming him up yourself.
Pardon me?
You warming him up, the horse yourself before?
Oh yeah, I always warm him up.
Yes.
I warm up. Maybe I think through one race I couldn't be there So Rico would have warmed him up.
Yeah.
That would have been the race in Kentucky at 2 when Andy McCarthy drove him. And maybe even Andy warmed him up because Andy actually took great interest in him. And, I'm proud to say that Andy still has his picture on his Facebook wall. I mean, Andy McCarthy turned out to be a great driver. And I even tell Andy he's today's Joe O'Brien. Like Andy McCarthy can train, and he can drive, and he can shoe, and he can kind of do anything. He's a really top guy, and so Andy believed he would have made it on his own because he was great. I remember when I saw him drive at the Meadowlands for Noel Daly, you could just see Andy knew what to do. There's no doubt about that. That's how the warming up worked. I would warm up and go twice with him.
But Greg, can I ask you, how much this cost when you bought him some yelling?
$55,000, and here's how that story went.
Oh my!
When I got to the sale
Yes.
and I saw he had the roach back, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
Because I said, now what do I do? Because a lot of people don't like them with a roach back. They think it gives them a problem.
Yeah.
So, but I said, for once, no, I'm not going to change my mind. So we went to the ring. Let's say I bid 45, somebody bid 50, and Tommy Pontone reminds me, and he was the original owner, he gave me the throat sign and said, no, don't bid back at 55,000. And then he said, Tommy says, you literally stood there and begged me to bid one more time. And I said, okay. And I looked up at Dean Beachy, who is now deceased. He was a bid spotter, but an auctioneer as well. And I made the 55,000 bid, and the gavel fell. That's how it happened.
Oh my God! So, but
Yeah.
always, if you bought some stars, whatever, they always good story, and just think.
Well, but isn't that horses? I mean, you've had lots of good horses, and it's probably the same thing. There's a story behind all of them that you can't say, because I do hear that now, and my family, and they say to me, well, why did you say it was so easy? Because, those out there who I guess felt some jealousy, and I don't know why, then they went around and said, well, anybody could have done it. But I've come to the realization of this. A friend of mine, Mitchell Skolnick,
Yes.
and the agent who's Bluestone Farms, who has bred the likes of Propulsion, et cetera, has this theory that, well, everything had to happen the way that it did. The same as one day I'm driving along 295, and I said to Bob Bonney, the agent, who's a friend of mine close to Mitchell's, well, what if and Bob said to me, no, everything had to happen the way that it did. What if you did go an extra trip or whatever? Or, remember, I didn't race them at Woodbine for $750,000 at 2. I didn't take him to Canada. When he was fresh, I went to...
You was afraid?
I sent him out to Kentucky, then I went to the American... Well, I was afraid he might go up there, get sick or whatever, and then at 3... I didn't race him for $500,000 to Colonial 8 days later because I thought that I was managing a stallion. People had invested, and I felt that he really had to go undefeated.
Yes.
Which doesn't happen now. That they seem to get beat and then they buy into them anyway. But it was everything I did was very calculated. That's for sure.
But I think so. Soon after the career for this horse and on the way, I think you must be very proud because for the industry and all the people, all the world know that without you, no Muscle Hill.
Okay.
We know that the industry all over the world. I think I have all the people with me when I say without Greg, we don't have any Muscle Hill. Because first of all, this horse was a gift from heaven to you. And you take care of this horse on the best way. Your choice on Brian Sears is amazing driver, very nice to the horse, and you do everything right from early in the morning. you were to take care of the horse. So I would just say for Scandinavian and Europe, I would just say thank you, Greg, for you take this horse to the industry. So you make so
Well,
many
welcome.
people happy for that.
You know, I find that I see a lot written about them and that domestically where I don't even get mentioned. You know, and it has actually affected my business because a lot of people will say, well, how many horses do you train? 5. I'm going to tell you this. I did not get one new owner or horse after that based on muscle building. You would think that somebody would have walked up to me at a sale and said, here's a yellow ticket, will you train a trotter for me? No. So that was an interesting, that's the untold story, if you will. You would think I would have been set for life, but I wasn't.
Interesting. So what do you think are, if you take some horses after a muscle hill, if you see some yearlings, you can see the 2-year-old go to the qualified, you can see his fillies, his colt, every train. What do you think? They have some, they like his father. What things you so can see, oh my God, I think you can go to the track and say, oh, this is a muscle hill.
That I can do,
Yes.
but there are so many that I liken it to this, that a lot of them are newer generation. They're like my 2 children. If you looked at me and you looked at my boys, you'd say, I get it. Oh, yeah, they're bigger and stronger and better looking and smarter and everything. And I see that in him. But as for now, he really hasn't sired one as good as himself. He has several stallions that he sired, and they're good, but not great. So the great one has not come along yet, and I don't know that it will, because it would be quite an accomplishment for him to sire a sire as good as him or sire one that is better than him. That would be quite a thing.
It was very interesting to talk to you, Greg. I appreciate and I hope the Norwegian people will like it. But I have some...
Oh, I think they will, because you know who the most complimentary have been? Have been the Scandinavian people, or Monsieur Dubois, who from France, who bought a couple shares in them. Yeah, they certainly appreciate it. And look what's happening now. I see the French buying a lot of his stallions and his fillies. I'm wondering, is the next step going to be that they're going to open the French book to him?
I hope
because
so.
They would like to probably have that gait, throughout the, in their racing. That's for sure. I wish. I'm in the process of buying and starting my own place, and I'm going to call it the World Trotting Center. And I'd love if I got some support, from Europe, specifically Scandinavia and France. I'd love to train some for them, because I'm genuinely interested in trotters and improving whatever there is to improve and make them better. Because so far with the French trotters, as Bob Marks, who ran Paredes, says to me, that so far, and we know how great Ready Cash is, and we've had a few of them here, but so far they haven't given you that 2-year-old. Now, Readily Express appeared to, with the one, but he didn't win the Hamiltonian, but he certainly showed the speed. So I'm hoping that, I wish I could get some of them, and maybe something that I did or could do might result in that. Mitchell, my friend, does say to me, guys who do it again. Well, I said, it hasn't happened in 12 years, so I hope you're right.
Yes, but can we maybe sometime when I come over, we can talk. Maybe we can do something fun together.
Well, I'd like to do that because I enjoyed your company.
Your brain,
when
my
you did
brain,
come, and
maybe
you asked
we can
me on the
do something good.
You asked me on the phone earlier in the pre-interview, are you the only one who ever jogged them? That was not Sylvia, Rico, Brian Sears, or myself, or Andy McCarthy, or Luke McCarthy. And I had to say to myself, no, you were the only one. So that says something about that you and I maybe met for a reason.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I remember.
Now you remind me, I remember that.
If I can come in here and just say to the Norwegian people, I remember I come to look in. I don't here just look at you. You always were so gentle in your clothes. You look like a bank director, if I can say that. Maybe Mr. President. I don't know.
Okay.
I come to you on your farm for. I have respect for you on your job and looking at you and blah blah blah. Anyway. You were so nice to me. I was a young blonde guy from Norway. Nobody have heard of me. And we'd sit in there drink and you talk so much. And I was so impressed. And we talked the horse. And you let me jog Muscle Hill. I remember to be today. And that was my small question to you. I don't think so many horse trainer and drivers have jogging him from Scandinavian. I know this girls from, but I don't think so. I have feeling in my hands.
You're the only one.
I'm the only one.
You're the only one, as they say, from anywhere. And I said to you earlier, you know, what I appreciated was that you did come to see him. The other one, I can remember, it was a warm afternoon, and Bernie Lynn said, can I go over? Look, I brought him over the bar, and I say to this day, because I have so much respect for him, why didn't I say, Bernie, would you like to warm him up for the race or jog him or train him or whatever? Because, I really respect that man, and I wanted to share, the greatness of the horse.
But I do it.
But you did.
I did. Thank you for that. Thank you so much.
I wonder why. What's your theory? Why did I do that?
What do you mean? Sorry?
Well, why did I say here, if Atle, you can jog him? I didn't anybody else.
No, because
you?
First of all, I will say to you, Greg, we have an amazing talk. And you see in my eyes, I was a man, so was, and maybe I don't remember already coming up, but maybe I ask you. And the horse coming in jogging, and you said, jogging him. I was proud like a king,
And by that time, he did have the manners to the point where I said to myself, when you see all these show horses today, see, I grew up in Nova Scotia, Canada, and we had 3 generations of a grocery business where they would deliver the orders with horses, with horse and wagon. And my father and his brothers, at the end of the day, they would race the horses on the ice, like you guys do, with the corks on their shoes, and So the horses came pretty natural to me, to the point I do things with horses that people say, well, why is he doing that? Well, if you grew up with them like I did and appreciate them and started with, we had very bad horses growing up, and we were the only ones really on Cape Breton Island that dealt much in trotters, and they'd have to race against pacers until they went to Prince Edward Island for Old Home Week. So, I didn't take it lightly, but you made my day when you reminded me of, well, you're somebody that I did share it with, and I'm glad I did, and I thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you so much, Greg. The time is over. I will like this communication with us on YouTube, and I would just say again, thank you for your sportsman, your gentleman, and you bring Muscle Hill to the world. Thank you so much for your job. I appreciate for that, and I hope the first man I will visit when I come over is you. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Greg.
Well, you're very welcome, and I hope to do it again.
Thank you. Goodbye, sir.
Is that it?
Finish. Goodbye.
Yeah, well, thank you, Atle.
Thank you
Stay
so
in
much.
touch.
Ja, folkens. Det var Greg med Muscle Hill. Han flink å prate og snakker mye om historien. Det var jo selvfølgelig mange spørsmål jeg hadde lyst til å stille han. Men det som er poenget med det er det at Norge, vi har en plass i Amerika. De amerikanske hingstene, amerikanske følgehoppene. Vi ser vi har de beste norskfødte hestene våre. Det er full amerikansk stamme. Og det er vi stolte av. Derfor er det viktig at vi holder kontakt med de store i industrien. Og når jeg mener store, det er jo fordi at de hingsteierne, altså det er jo syndikere sport, og at vi prater med trenerne, sånn at når de hører om Norge, så er de positive. Norway, positiv. Så det er litt av poenget med å holde disse her kontaktene og påminne dem om gamle dager, gamle historier og så videre. Så jeg gjør det bare for at ingen skal glemme Norge. For det er viktig. Så tusen takk. Det var det hele i dag. Ha en strålende dag, og velkommen tilbake. Ha det bra.